Forget gurus. Forget anyone claiming to be an online business expert without going through the challenges of entrepreneurship themselves. The Real Money, Real Business podcast is here to prove the best insights in online business comes from your fellow online business builders. We dig into stories of entrepreneurs selling their business on the Empire Flippers marketplace so that you can learn how they made their business profitable, how they overcame obstacles, and what lessons they learned in their online journey. If you want to take your business and your knowledge to the next level, you've come to the right podcast. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Real Money, Real Business podcast. I'm Lauren, and today we have Jamie on the show, who's selling a display advertising, Amazon Associates, and affiliate business on the Empire Flippers marketplace. Hey Jamie, welcome to the show. How's your day been so far?
It's an early start, but so far so good. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you so much for joining me so early on in your day. Hopefully this will be a good start to it. But before we go any further, I'm going to give the listeners a brief overview of your business, just so they have a better idea of what we're talking about. So this is a display advertising, Amazon Associates, and affiliate business. It was created in February 2021, and it's in the agriculture and hobbies niches. The average revenue for the business is $7,946 per month, and it makes an average of $7,179 per month in net profit. The assets included with the business are a domain and all site content and files, freelancer writer relationships, a Facebook account, and an email list with 2,300 subscribers. For everyone listening, you can visit empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 69179 to learn more about this business. Or you can unlock this listing to start your due diligence if you're interested in purchasing this asset. So with that out of the way, let's hear from you, Jamie. Can you fill us in on your background in starting and running online businesses?
Sure. I actually started with an Amazon FBA private labeling business in 2015. I ran that for a couple of years. Really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed having a physical product, selling physical products. When I got in, it was nowhere near as competitive as when I left. And that is one of the reasons that I was looking for something different outside of Amazon FBA. I was really drawn to the passive nature of content businesses. And this is probably my 6th or 7th website that I've built. And I do maintain a portfolio of content-based websites.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, I agree. Content sites are wonderfully passive. I think that's definitely a huge draw card. When you were trying to narrow down on what topics or niche you should focus on, what drew you to this niche?
I was actually starting a hobby in this area, and I was in the information gathering stages, and I was having trouble finding good, new, and fresh content. And for content creators, website builders, when you find a niche that you feel like you can add something to, and you continually are finding areas that aren't covered or aren't covered well, or there's lots of thin content, that's a really good sign. So I thought that there would be a lot that I could add to this space.
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite an exciting moment when you find that area of untapped potential.
It is. It's like striking gold. It's definitely exciting. And then the more that you find those topics that aren't covered well, it's just more and more confirmation that it's a good niche to go into.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the growth of this site is really a testament to that. There's clearly a need for the type of content that you're producing. So what made you choose display advertising as your main source of revenue for the site?
This is not my first site that I've built. So I have a little bit of experience under my belt, and I've experienced Amazon affiliate programs. I've experienced just general affiliate programs and display ads, and specifically Amazon affiliate. They're notorious for changing commissions around. And there came a point where that's a real bummer. It lets a lot of air out of your sales when you're used to a certain level of commission coming in from an affiliate, and then they change that on you. So one of the things that's attractive about display ads is there's a little bit more stability, a little bit more predictability with it. Revenue rates or RPMs change and fluctuate throughout the year, but they tend to follow a cyclical trend throughout the year. So it's a little bit easier to understand the earnings of a site when its majority monetization model is display ads. The other thing was it's a lot easier to just focus on the content and not how you're going to monetize the content if your primary method for monetization is display ads.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. It's not only the most sort of consistent in terms of revenues, but it's also one of the most passive ways of earning an income on a site as well. But you do have some other revenue streams associated with your site. So can you walk us through those as well?
Yeah, so this site generates Amazon affiliate income as well as other niche relevant affiliate program income. So the site is in the gardening space. So there are other affiliate programs out there. I don't know the exact number that I have on the site currently. I believe there's probably about 4 or 5 niche relevant affiliate programs. There are many more that can be added. So that is an opportunity for the buyer. And then of the ones that I do have, there's definitely more room to grow those existing affiliate programs as well and the earnings from them.
Yeah, fantastic. I think it's great that you're affiliated with multiple affiliates as well to sort of diversify that revenue even further. So it sounds like you've built the site up to a really great place. It certainly sounds like you're passionate about the content site industry as a whole. What are the reasons you've decided to exit this business now?
Yeah, that's a good question. This is what I do full time. I have other websites that are in various stages of growth. I have other projects that are calling for my attention. So that's one of the things. And then my wife and I are also planning to start an offline business later this year. So after discussion, we've kind of decided that this is a good move for us. The funds from the sale will help with that new business endeavor. And I personally enjoy the building phase of a site, like the very early on where there's nothing, there's no traffic, no one knows about the site. That's the phase of growth that I really like. I get a lot of enjoyment from that. And when it gets to a certain level, I tend to lose a little bit of interest and my shiny object syndrome takes over and I'm looking for a new project to fire up. So that's kind of where I'm at. And that's the motivation behind selling the site.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. When you start a site from scratch, there's so many milestones to hit and each one is so exciting. And then that sort of plateaus as the site ages and gets older. Looking back over your journey with the business, what would you say are some of those big milestones that you met or big success stories that really stand out in your mind?
Like I said, this is not my first site. I've been doing this since 2018 is when I started. So I have a lot of sites and a lot of growth to compare to. And one of the biggest successes was the early success that the site saw and the rate that it saw success. Hit first revenue 2 months in and was making over $1,000 a month inside of 12 months. So those are pretty good numbers, I like to think, specifically for a content-based website whose majority traffic source is Google. So the content on the site is written for Google search, and that's where the majority of the traffic comes from. I was able to get premium ads on the site. The site runs Mediavine premium ads in month 10. Prior to that, it was running on Ezoic, which is, a great ad platform, but Mediavine is much better and higher earnings.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's some really, really great growth. And it must have been so exciting to see such great results so quickly. It again, validates your decision of content, topics, and niche as well.
Yeah, it really does. And when you see that, then that's just more confirmation that you chose a good niche, and then you just start to lean into it even more.
Yeah, exactly. And it shows you that there's definitely room for growth as well. As you mentioned, you've got a portfolio of sites, a bit of experience under your belt. But even so, I'm sure there were some setbacks or challenges that maybe took you by surprise. So what were some of the biggest obstacles you had to overcome?
Yeah, with this particular site, there really wasn't anything major. If I would have to share one challenge, I would say that it would be learning about the different topics that I wasn't necessarily familiar with. So I started this site for a specific subset of the overall topic of gardening. As I expanded the site, I had to learn more about topics that I was kind of familiar with, but not into the detail that would be required for researching and identifying topics that were worth writing that I felt that I could rank for. So I think that was one of the biggest challenges. It's easily overcome, but that's one of the first things that I kind of ran into when I started this site.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that takes a lot of people by surprise, the sort of rabbit holes that open up when you start digging deeper into the topics. Let's have a look at your traffic now. So obviously the site enjoys very healthy amounts of traffic from the early days. So where does the majority of that traffic come from?
Yeah, majority of the traffic, and that's with intention, comes from Google search. I think the number right now is 87% comes from Google. And then I think about 9% or so comes from, it's just direct traffic. And I think that's a testament to a little bit of brand recognition actually out there. If you are searching in this niche enough, you're going to come across the site more and more. And that helps build brand awareness and brand recognition. And then people will eventually just start to go directly to your site to see if you have what they're looking for. So all the sites that I build, it's the main goal to get Google search traffic. I know some people have different approaches, but that's what I know best, and that's what I focus on.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm sure that in response to that, do you spend a lot of time on page SEO or building up your backlink profile?
I do not actually spend a ton of time on page SEO, so that's another opportunity for a buyer. Beyond the initial research that I do on a topic before it's written, there's not much else on page that I do. I do focus on making sure that the articles are formatted properly, that the keywords, if you will, and relevant like shoulder keywords or related terms and keywords are in the article, but I'm not using any types of tools to analyze on-page SEO at the moment. And I've not done any backlink building on this site. So I know a lot of people are surprised by that, but that's just kind of the way I learned to do things was without backlinks. So any of the backlinks that the site has acquired over the years have been naturally occurring. So you write good content, people want to source it and cite it. And that's a good way to get quality backlinks. So there's definitely opportunities there for the buyer when it comes to additional SEO on page and then also backlink building.
Yeah, definitely some opportunities for buyers to tap into there. But I think the fact that the site ranks so well is a testament to the quality of the content on the site as well. Do you do anything else in terms of marketing? I see you do have an email list and a Facebook account.
Yeah, the Facebook account was set up really just to secure the Facebook account so that in the future, there's a lot of in the future ideas in this business sometimes. So in the future, that was kind of the idea of just having it so that I could do posts more regularly down the road. With the email list is about 2,300 subscribers. It's been built very passively. I actually use a plugin that Mediavine, the ad platform provider, offers. It's called Mediavine Grow, I believe, and it's inline email subscribe. So when a reader is going through an article, the email subscribe box just kind of gracefully appears in there and asks them if they'd like to, stay up to date on current happenings, if you will. So the email list has been built very passively. There was a period of time, probably about 8 months, where I did send to the email list regularly. I sent once weekly emails. I got good opens. It just boiled down to I wasn't really seeing any results for the time that I was investing in it. So if somebody has better ideas on how to do email newsletters, then there's a good starting point for them with this email list.
Yeah, well, let's follow on with that train of thought. You've mentioned a couple of opportunities already, but what do you see as the major opportunities for growth that buyers can really tap into with your business?
Yeah, I think the first thing is add more content. The site has, I don't know the exact number. I think there's probably around 700 articles on the site, but this niche is massive. There are so many different paths you can go down. I feel like I've done a very good job identifying some of the core areas or core topics to talk about, but there's just so much information. I'm happy to share some ideas with the buyer as to what I would target next. Another opportunity is update existing content. When you have a site that has that amount of content, there's going to be opportunities to go back and update things. So that's another area that a buyer could focus on. One thing that I've never gotten around to, but it's always kind of been on the list of to-dos for this site, is to put together various ebooks. I think there's a massive, massive opportunity for ebooks and even informational products in this niche. I think it's underserved. I think anything that's really out there that I've seen is kind of outdated. So I think that's a great opportunity. And I think there's also an opportunity to do brand sponsorships. So work with some of the larger brands in the niche and see what kind of collaborations you can do. Monetary collaborations, sponsored post type things. Something I've never done with the site, but I think is definitely an opportunity.
Yeah, you've outlined a really good amount of opportunities there. Some low-hanging fruit that will be quick for buyers to tap into, and then some sort of longer-term projects that really offer the potential of a good amount of growth. Judging from what you've said, it sounds like creating high-quality content certainly seems like a priority for you. So can you walk us through your content creation process and how you find the topics to write about and go about creating that content?
So for this site, I do all the topic research and I identify the articles that should be written. So I have different criteria that I go through to identify topics that I feel are underserved, where I feel like I can add something extra that hasn't necessarily been talked about, or I can just present the information in a better fashion. So once the topics are identified, I put them into a spreadsheet. I work off of a master spreadsheet that kind of tracks all of the content production. And I put all of the articles to be written, or the topics that I want to have articles written on the spreadsheet, and they're just assigned a status of to be written. From there, I have an editor that puts together a simple brief, a writer's brief. It's basically instructions on what's the expectation of the article. So that's put together. And then I assign articles to writers one time a week. So there's not a bunch of back and forth with the writers that I work with. These are freelance writers. They're kind of conditioned that it's typically either Sunday or Monday, I'm sending them a new batch, as I call it, of articles. When the articles come back, they're already formatted. So that's just how the writers have been trained. They're formatted according to headers. So majority of headers, H2, H3 headers, that just organizes the content. Makes it really easy to publish because you can literally copy it and paste it into WordPress for the most part. So once that's done, the editor loads it into WordPress, proofreads it, adds images, and then marks it as pending. So when I go in there, I see all of the pending articles, and then I go ahead and publish them. So I review it, and I'm the final one to hit publish on it. It doesn't have to be that way. That's just a little bit of, I like to have final say on what's being published. But the content that I'm getting from the writers is honestly in very good shape. It could probably be published without any proofreading and with very minimal editing.
Well, it certainly sounds like you've got a very streamlined process set up there, ironed out all of the wrinkles, seems to be running very smoothly. How do you go about discovering these topics or untapped keywords that you're creating your topics about?
Sure. I can't give away all my secret sauce here, but I will share a little bit of how it's done. This is in a content creator and in a publisher or website creators. This is like everyone has a different approach to it, but I'll give you a little bit of the generalities there. So I'm really, one of the things I'm looking for is shoulder terms. So shoulder terms are related terms. You know, the site has many different keywords that it ranks for. Some of the things that a site ranks for, though, it's not what you intended for it to rank for. So you may have written an article on one thing, and in the process of Google ranking it for that one thing, it also ranked for other things that article's not really focused on. So I like to find those types of topics. Two places you can find those things are in Ahrefs. It's a premium subscription service. You can get fairly inexpensive access to it. Ahrefs is really good, though, because it will show you all the keywords that you rank for, and then you compare that to the actual article that is ranking for that, and you can see if it should be ranking for that or not. If it's not, then that's a good shoulder term that you can focus on. Search Console, so Google Search Console, which this site is set up with, so all that data will be in there for the buyer. You can look at searches, or Google calls them keywords or terms, that the site is getting impressions for, but maybe it's not necessarily getting a lot of clicks for. So that's another way to find topics that Google is showing your content for, but you can tell because it's not getting clicks that, you know, the person that's searching for it isn't seeing what they're looking for. So that's another way to find topics that you can kind of expand on. Then I've got one last tip here. So one other thing that I do is I look at existing articles. And for this, I typically will look at analytics. So I'll look at the actual visitors that are coming to the site, and I will see what articles are working, and I will see what adaptations of that article I can create. So if a specific article is working, what other applications of that general type of article can I create and focus on?
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing those tips and tricks with us. I think that's going to be very helpful for anyone listening. It certainly sounds like, as I've said, you know, this is a very streamlined business. All the processes are running very smoothly. So what does a typical work week look like for you when running this business? How many hours of your time does it take up? And what sort of tasks occupy the most amounts of time for you?
So I'm currently publishing 2 articles a week. And right now I have a stockpile of articles. It's just articles that are ready to be published that I kind of slowed down the publishing schedule. So from that, I'm going into WordPress. They're in a pending status, and I am literally reviewing them and hitting publish on 2 of those per week. So once that stockpile runs out, and I believe right now I've got about a month and a half worth at the 2 articles per week pace. So outside of that, it still doesn't really require a ton of time. That's all going to depend on, a new buyer, how much content they want to start putting out for the site. So I would say 2, maybe 3 hours a week. It's in a pretty good place. The site has good traffic coming in. So it'll be up to the buyer how much content they want to put on there. But, when the articles come in, editor reviews it, loads it into WordPress, gets it ready to publish, puts images in there, that type of thing. And then I go back in there and hit publish. Outside of that, I would say maybe every 2 or 3 weeks, I spend an extra hour or 2 researching and loading future topics into the spreadsheet. So that's kind of the core areas where my time is spent. And I tend to try and focus on a specific category of content, do some research on that category, and get a bunch of related articles on the spreadsheet so that they can be written in the future.
Yeah, fantastic. I think for a site this size to be that passive, I think is a great achievement. You mentioned that you do work with a team to help you produce the content. Can you walk us through how many people are in that team and what they do?
Sure. So I personally have an editor. My editor works with all of the sites that I manage. So the editor is not included in this. And then I do work with freelance writers. I've currently on the site, I've got 2 freelance writers, one of which I am more than happy to pass on to the buyer. And then I do also have other writers that I've worked with in the past that I still have and maintain a good relationship with. And I'm happy to provide an introduction to those writers as well to a buyer so that they can, have pre-qualified writers that I can attest to their quality of content. So that's pretty much what it looks like. These are freelance writers, and they're pretty self-sufficient. Like I said, I give them a batch of articles to work with 1 time a week. And they typically, when all of the articles are complete, they will let me know. And then I get to work on getting them published.
Fantastic. Well, given how smoothly this business runs, what do you think are the biggest challenges that a buyer might run into when they take over the business?
Yeah, I think that would be probably ensuring that the content that's being created is accurate and high quality. Like I said earlier, I think that the site has reached a little bit of brand recognition in the niche, and people expect a certain level of quality. So I think that while it isn't a massive challenge and it's something that can, I feel like, easily be overcome, it is one thing to kind of keep in mind with the site, since quality content is kind of the name of the game here.
Yeah, I think maintaining that quality of content, especially vital if you've got an audience who's returning and will notice that change in writing style as well. How much support are you willing to offer the buyer to help them navigate any challenges that might come up?
I'm happy to provide 30 days of email support and then 2 or 3 30-minute video calls. I think that should be enough to get the site transitioned over to the buyer and get them up and running. I actually did sell a site through Empire Flippers last summer sometime, and that's kind of the support that I provided, and it was more than enough to get the process complete.
Yeah, fantastic. I think given how streamlined the business is, that should be more than enough. When it comes to negotiating with the buyer, would you be open to something like an earn-out agreement?
I would definitely prefer cash up front. That's the ideal situation. But I would entertain earnout, absolutely. But I would prefer that the majority of the payment be made up front. And I'm talking 70, 80% preferably.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds fair. And would you commit to a non-compete agreement?
Yes, I'm happy to discuss the non-compete terms with the buyer just to make them more comfortable with the purchase.
Fantastic. Well, Jamie, that leads us into the final question of the interview. So if you had to put yourself into the shoes of a buyer, why do you think your business is a business worth buying?
It's built on a strong foundation. I've put a lot of time, a lot of effort into this site to ensure that it's got the foundation that it needs for growth. But with that, there's plenty of room to grow. Like I said, this niche, there's so much that can be done in this niche. There's so many subtopics. There's new things that are actually coming into this niche on a regular basis that can be discussed. And, content on this site is focused around subjects that people are passionate about. People absolutely love these topics. And one of the other things that I think should be noted is I'm selling this site ahead of the biggest earnings season for this site. So there's a lot of earnings that come in from April to September, and I'm selling at the beginning of that. So a quick acting buyer, we can get a deal done, and you can take advantage of the upward earnings for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing to note. Definitely a big advantage for a buyer there. Jamie, are there any other details about your business that you'd like to share with our listeners that I might have missed?
I don't think so. We covered a lot here. This was great. I will say, if you are a buyer and you're interested, I could talk about this stuff all day long. So I'm happy to answer any questions that a prospective buyer would have. Happy to hop on a call, video call, get to know you, let you know the business, and see if we can make a deal.
Fantastic. Well, Jamie, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview. It's been great learning more about you and your business, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your day.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. It was great.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. To learn more and see if this listing has already been sold, head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 69179. If you're watching this on YouTube, click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. Once you've unlocked this listing, you'll be given everything you need to know about this business. So until next time, enjoy your digital journey.